Welcome into the Verizon pregame show ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Detroit Lions in Week 11 action in the NFL. Now, a lot of this week has been a lot like a soap opera, you might say. So let's do a little bit like a soap opera and have a recap of what happened last week, because A.J. Brown started talking and a certain member of our show here was talking about how he wasn't going to talk about A.J. Brown. And I just...
Wait, who said that?
I don't remember.
Who said that?
I'm trying to think who could... do we have the clip? Do we have the video of what was going on there?
Let's see.
Oh, Lord, here we go. I am kind of done with the whole A.J. thing. He's going to be what he's going to be. Well, when I said that I'm done, I mean I'm done. When I tell you I'm done, I'm done. I'm not talking about it. So y'all can have the segment.
Fair enough.
As a matter of fact, I'll just roll my seat right on out of the room. How about that?
Well, you're not going to be rolling out anytime soon, but AJ...
You know, if I was mobile, I'd roll out of here right now.
Well, in your defense, we didn't expect... Now, by the way, for those that watch the show every week, we do a Say What segment. We're going to go ahead and move that up so we can just get this A.J. Brown stuff off the table and get it out of the way. Now, in your defense, I believe last week you mentioned something about if he goes to the podium and says something cryptic. Well, it wasn't at a podium, and it certainly wasn't cryptic. Here's A.J. Brown on a stream talking about, well, really airing his grievances.
Everything gonna click, bro. Trust me.
Shit show. If you got me on fantasy, man, get rid of me.
All right, A.J. Brown calling the Eagles offense a bleep show. You just heard it right there. And also going on to say, if you got me on fantasy, get rid of me. So that wasn't at a podium, and it certainly wasn't cryptic, Seth. That was pretty much right out there in the open, airing the grievances.
Deacon, why don't you go first?
No. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting 5 days for this.
Oh, a lot of meat on the bone.
You know, as much as I don't want to talk about it, it's not just that clip, it's what he said throughout the rest of the week. Obviously, there's something bigger going on here than just A.J. Brown. There's got to be some tension between Jalen Hurts and himself, that the situation has gone to where it's gone to. And when Jalen was asked about A.J.'s comments, during last week, he pretty much said, hey, I'm focused on the Detroit Lions. That just tells me, D-Gun, that something's off between these two, and it's not good. When the owner gets pulled in to have a conversation, the last time the owner got pulled in to have a conversation about the going-ons between a quarterback and a wide receiver, it wasn't long before the wide receiver was gone. Now, I don't envision that happening this year, but I get the sense that, by the time we get to draft day, A.J. Brown may no longer be a Philadelphia Eagle. I don't know what it is. You can mess with a whole lot of people, but the two people you don't mess with is the head coach, and you don't mess with the quarterback. The quarterback is evading the situation. The wide receiver is exacerbating the situation. The owner is now in the mix here, and you have the head coach losing his composure in a press conference earlier this week when continuing to be asked about the scenario and the circumstances. I was on the side last week of, they've got to figure out a way to get more than 3 targets and 2 catches, for 13 yards to your number one wide receiver. I still stand on that. But what I do know, D-Gun, before I pass it to you, is that the continued conversation does no one any good. It does no one any good. And it's not a distraction until it becomes a distraction. This team is 7-2, sitting in a real good position. And nothing good, in my opinion, is going to come out of this if they don't figure it out and figure it out fast.
Here's the most interesting thing about it. Everything that he's been saying has not been a distraction to the team. They have still focused on the job at hand and found ways to win a lot more games than they've lost. Part of what he said is true about the offense. We've said that. Everybody in the media said that. Anybody who has watched this team has said that throughout the course of this season. Sometimes honesty is not the best policy, and I think it's drawing more attention to him than anything else. I can tell you this, everybody in that organization loves AJ. I've not heard one person, and I'm talking about from front office people to players to people behind the scenes who have had anything negative to say about AJ. They've been in unison about AJ's a great dude inside this building. So basically, he's an emotional guy. He's a passionate guy. And unfortunately, he wears his emotions on his sleeve more times than not to bring unwanted attention to the organization. But nobody views him as a distraction. I cover that mess with T.O. and Donovan. And I can tell you firsthand because I was close to a lot of those players. What T.O. and Donovan, technically what T.O. was forcing on that locker room, forced players to take sides. And it hurt Donovan in some ways because some players took T.O.'s side that Donovan never thought would take T.O.'s side in that situation. So it did cause a division in that locker room. In this case, it did not cause a division. And Dom got Jeffrey Lurie and T.O. together for about 10 minutes after a practice session to talk even more so. And then the story came out that AJ has promised not to take his grievances to social media. I don't believe that for a minute. Let him keep getting 2 and 3 targets a game. We'll be talking about this again. But here's another thing that's interesting, the story that came out, and I've been sitting on for a while, and unfortunately I let it go. There are a lot of players unhappy with Jalen Hurts on this team about how he's running the offense and what he should be doing in the offense compared to what is happening in the offense. Now, because of their success, it has been water over the dam and washed under a bridge, so to speak. But there's a lot of guys on that team that are not happy with Jalen Hurts and the way he's running this offense right now.
You talk about it not being a problem and how much, everybody loves, A.J. Brown. And I don't dispute that. You're closer to that than I would be. The issue is, when I look at other teams and I look at other top flight wide receivers around the National Football League, when they go through spurts like this, it's not a point of contention in a public type of way. I will say this, A.J. Brown's a great player, and he's had some great years here. And other players have had to take a back seat when A.J. got 10, 15 targets in the game, okay? Now that he's not the guy, but the team is still winning, and Smitty is having a career year, and Dallas Goedert is getting, his share of targets. Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. And I get it. As a top flight wide receiver, you want to be a part of why the team is having success. Even in my minimized role on the defensive side of the ball, I wanted to make plays that help determine the outcome of the game. Okay, but I never let it get in the way of the success of other players on my team.
Right.
If I had to take a block for Byron to come free or for Willie T to come free or for any of my line guys to come free, I was willing to do that for the sake of winning and understanding that things balances themselves out. It's hard. It's going to be hard to balance it out for him because his numbers have been so astronomical, and we are now at the halfway point. He's not going to get 1,300 yards in a half a season. You understand what I'm saying? That's just not going to happen. So there's so many components to this. Do you just be quiet and realize that other players are getting it done, and the team is 7-2, and if you win tonight, you're sitting on top of the
top seed.
The top seed, or do you continue to complain? With the belief, like he said, this is just not going to get it done later in the year when it really counts. Well, look at the teams that you beat. Look at what you've overcome so far, and this team is a team that will find a way to win some way or another. There's got to be a happy medium. Because even in the game where A.J. Brown had 4 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, you could look at his body language and you could see his face on the sideline. He still wasn't happy. And then Tuesday we got the using but not using me tweet. So what is it? Does he have to get 15 targets in a game in order for him to, when the game is over and the Eagles have won, for us to look at him on the sideline and see, all 34 or 32, whatever it is? Is that what it is that's going to make him happy? I talked about this weeks ago. What is it that makes you happy? Because in order for a team to be successful, everyone has to accept their roles, and roles shifts and roles changes, But you also got to be happy with winning because it's so hard to win and there's so few games. There are not 162 or 82 and 82. When you get to the playoffs, you don't get game 3 and game 4 to make it right, okay? So where you can get your wins, you get your wins and you be happy, and things will balance themselves out somewhere down the line. I'm not saying that I don't feel his pain. When you've been top flight, you want to be top flight all the time. When you're 28 years old, you're playing for more than just, the game itself. In a lot of ways, there's on the selfish side of things, you're playing for your legacy. So I get it. I understand that, But as long as the team is winning, I wouldn't care if I had 2 tackles in the game, just as long as we win the game, because that's the objective.
Now, real quick, Gunnar, so I was hoping we wouldn't have to go too far into Birds of Our Lives soap opera, but it doesn't. It sounds like A.J. Brown is just the only one that's outspoken about it, according to you.
Yes.
Gunnar, there are other people in that locker room that feel similar to A.J.
Absolutely.
And they want Jalen to be spreading the ball around a little bit more.
They want him to view the offense in a different light. Don't be so mechanical with it. They feel in some ways he's holding the offense back more so. And I can't go into too much detail about it. And I'm trying to give you a little information without betraying the trust of certain people. But they're not happy with, I guess, play changing at the line of scrimmage, missing open reads in passing situations, not having more of a rhythm type offense when they throw the ball, things of that nature. And there have been players in and out of certain offices talking about this, and it's like, all of this said, it still is not affected. Look at this. The offense is 23rd in the league. Mm-hmm. The defense is 18th in the league. Yet they're 7-2, and right now the number 1 seed in the NFC. I've never seen anything like this. You have a disgruntled player who speaks openly about wanting to be more involved in the offense that has not been nearly as fluid as it was a year ago. You have players and coaches sidestepping the issue. Nick Sirianni came out this week and said, "I'm just about done talking about this." Mm-hmm. Yes, guys, I'm just about done talking about this, because basically they know it's going to be weekly, depending. But I will say this, even though he has been publicly displaying his emotions, it hasn't changed in terms of them trying to force him the ball more. He had one game where he had a lot of catches and over 100 yards received. That's it. And AJ, in one game, I can't remember which game it was, came out and said, I think it was the Green Bay game, they did a good job of taking me out of the game. Well, if you acknowledge that publicly, what more do you want? You have to go, any smart offense has to go to second, third, and fourth options if a primary option is taken out of a game, plain and simple.
Well, but that's the point I was making about, his first couple of years here. Like, everybody in the league knew that he was a great player, but teams played him straight up, okay? Now that everybody knows how great of a player he is, teams are going to be slanted more towards taking him away.
Sure.
And if they're going to take him away, then obviously those other options have to move to the forefront instead of them trying to figure out a way to push him the ball when he's being double covered. I think that, and I talked about it and broke it down on my podcast last week. I feel like they need to move A.J. Brown around in the offense.
Sure.
I don't think that he needs to be the X receiver all the time. I believe that, Jahan Dotson played everywhere when he was in Washington. So that means that you can put him at X and put, depending on how you talk about it within the verbiage of your offense, you could put A.J. Brown in the slot and move him, okay? Now that creates problems, but if you line him up at X every single play, and I'm a defensive coordinator, I got remedies for that because I know where he's going to be every single time that he lines up. But if you start moving him around, can you imagine A.J. Brown running some option routes in the middle of the field after you clear everything out and he's one-on-one? And if you decide to drop that safety down and give him help, now they're isolated there and you got one-on-ones on the outside. There are remedies for what is going on, in my opinion. They've, as a coaching staff, where's the creativity? Where's the ability? Because if I can see that, and I drew up like 3 or 4 different things, 3 or 4 different ways that they could utilize, AJ on my whiteboard session on my podcast last week. If I can come up with that as a guy that's an analyst now, a former player that understands offenses and defenses even a little bit more intrinsically, you're gonna tell me that Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni can't figure this thing out? They have to get him involved. They have to get him involved. I'm not saying that he just needs to be quiet and stop. They have to get him involved. But my point about the continued outburst is it's not going to fix anything.
No.
Until the coaching staff takes the onus and fixes it and has that conversation with Jalen, okay? If you call a play and he's the primary, well, you start with him. If it's there right now, you give it to him. If it's not, you go to the next read. That's the way offenses are supposed to work. So you can call plays for your number one, okay? If they take him away, then you go to the next. But then you can also scheme your number one open. And that's the thing that I don't see enough of.
Those conversations have been had behind closed doors with Jalen, more times than not. But yet the results on the field look a lot different than the conversations that happen behind closed doors. So what does that tell you? The quarterback is going to do what the quarterback is going to do.
Go rogue?
The quarterback's going to keep his main thing the main thing.
Well,
that's exactly what's happening.
You know, my mom used to say, son, you know, a soft head make for a hard head make for a soft ass.
Right.
Okay,
That's right.
So you know,
right.
I guess what it's going to take is a couple of L's that, you know, that hurts the team in order for the quarterback to understand that, you know, this is the way that we run things. And at the end of the day, who's in charge of what? Okay, who's in charge of what? You know, like last week, them adjusting that play, to me, that's conduct detrimental. That's insubordination, that the coaches told you what to run and you decided to run something else. Okay.
You bench him?
No, you find their ass.
No, I'm saying, do you get to a point to make a point of benching him in the game?
No, I don't think you bench him, but I think that, you know, when you have insubordination in any other job anywhere, they fine you for not doing what you're supposed to do. Or if it gets bad enough, they fire you.
Sure.
So just on the 4th and 6 for last week, what we have determined here, and I know, Gunnar, you've talked to people as well, the 4th and 6, yes, that was a called play by Nick Sirianni to go for it, or by Kevin Patullo to go for it.
Which was
but
dumb in my
which was
opinion
still
anyway.
dumb, I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the rogue play that actually you saw develop was the go ball to A.J. Brown as opposed to the slant route or the curl route. The slant route was run by Smitty, who was open by about half a step, and then the curl route that was run by Dallas Goedert. Both would have been for first downs. Both would have put the icing on the cake for that game and seal the win. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, they decided to go to the go ball. And we watched the film right before we started the show here today. There is a little signal there from Jalen Hurts that we assume to A.J. Brown, as in, like, you go. And a lot of times those quarterbacks, of course, Jalen Hurts being one of them, will give hand signals to his receivers. Most quarterbacks in the NFL do this, and that would indicate, yeah, you're going deep on this one. It's going to you.
Well, Devontae Smith said after the game, 1 and 11 call that.
Yep.
And what 1 and 11 was, they get, and we just roll with it. That's why you saw Sirianni on the sideline going, why? They called the slant route was the primary play, and they felt it was open. First down, game over. Period.
See, that's the problem that I have with it right there, you know, because if you know that your quarterback and your wide receiver has a propensity to do things like that, in that scenario, because we've seen that before, that's not the first time that that's happened, then when you're in his ear, you tell him, run the play, okay? This is the play, run it. I don't give a damn what you want to check to, run the play, okay? Isn't that the hierarchy? The hierarchy is the head coach, the coaches, and then the players. Now, I understand that the quarterback is important, and I understand that your number one wide receiver is making a ton of money right along with the quarterback. But at the end of the day, the coaches are the ones that are moving the pieces on the chessboard, and the pieces don't make decisions for themselves. Now, you give him the latitude to do that in certain situations, but in a critical situation like that, you tell your quarterback, because you're in his ear up to 15 seconds before the play clock, you know, into the play clock, you tell him, run the damn play.
And hopefully that'll go into
Easier
today.
said than done.
It's wild to me that from what you're hearing, Mr. Gunn, that the Philadelphia Eagles have these plays and they have these meetings with their quarterback, and still we see the very similar type of offense every week with varied results. Usually not so great.
Like I said a few moments ago, when you think about everything that has transpired behind closed doors pertaining to all of this stuff, and this team is still the number one seed right now going into this game tonight against Detroit, I've never seen anything like this before in all the years I've covered football.
They're 7-2. But
7-2.
the Eagles told us a few years ago the record really doesn't matter because they'll fire the defensive coordinator at 10-3.
This is my take on it as we wrap it up. I think that I believe that they thrive off of the drama.
It could be also. It could be.
Some teams just, they can't operate, some situations aren't operational unless you got a little bit of drama going on, and maybe they thrive off of it.
It could be.
All right, we will get off the soap opera officially when we come back, and there's something else that was said by an opponent the Eagles will be facing today, one particular player. We'll get to that when we return. This is the Verizon pregame show on the Seth Joyner YouTube channel. Back after this.
I got this old thing and the bill from the store where I got it. Figured you could beat it with a better deal than one of these big boys.
That doesn't work that way.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill and they'll give you a better deal.
I thought Verizon was pricey.
No, better deal, best 5G network. Back to the TV. Does it come higher than 8K? Because I don't like to squint.
Ma'am, take your TV and go.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to Verizon for a better deal.
Guess you're not as cool as Verizon.
You don't know that?
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging, our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Now let's get away from things that the Eagles have said to talk about something that somebody else said on the opposing side of the football field. That's Aiden Hutchinson and what he had to say about taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, that they had this game circled on the calendar for quite some time, I'm sure ever since the schedule came out. Aiden Hutchinson, a Pro Bowl type player, obviously, edge rusher, gets after the quarterback. This is the second straight week, Seth, that the Eagles are facing a team that are getting up for the reigning Super Bowl champions. If you remember last year, you're talking about, a 15-2 football team, number 1 seed in the NFC. Then they go and face the Commanders in the playoffs and get torched. Jared Goff, 4 turnovers in that game, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble. So unfortunately, they choked that one away. What? A rebuttal?
See,
a rebuttal?
I'm really sorry we did not get to see that Detroit Eagles game last year.
Of course, yes.
Going into that game, Detroit got smashed by Washington. Detroit had 16 players on IR, and they lost 4 or 5 more players during that game. You got to play with what you got, but I think Detroit was at a severe deficit. Washington was just rolling a hot hand and then got them on that particular day. I so wish we could have seen that matchup just to see what would happen between Eagles and Detroit.
Well, I think you have that in common with Aiden Hutchinson, who would have loved to see that matchup as well. So this is the type of game, though, Seth, that a team like the Lions feels like maybe they got slighted, a short end of the stick last year, some bad cards dealt their way. How much as a former player are you trying to get up for a game like this if you're Aiden Hutchinson and you have a great test ahead of you like the Eagles?
At the end of the day, people are going to feel the way that they feel. I think last year is water under the bridge. The Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions. They're going to get everybody's best. I don't think this game is any different. Yes, circle, because you know what? The Eagles are Super Bowl champions 1. The Lions were the number 1 seed last year and got bumped out right before, the NFC Championship game, which then brought it here to the Link. So I get that they feel the way that they feel, but this is a different team, a different year, a completely different set of circumstances. And if he's not looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, we are using this game as a barometer because we won a lot of games. We beat some teams, we got a pretty good record, but you're measuring yourself against the world champions to find out where you are and where you need to get to with what you have, and if you see this team somewhere down the road, whether you have what it takes to actually beat them. Obviously, they feel like, they probably would have smashed the Eagles last year, but if and buts was candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. I get that, okay? But sometimes, you can kind of get caught up with the nonsense of, we've had this game circled for a while because we were supposed to play y'all last year and we didn't get a chance to play you. Well, that's on y'all, okay? because you were good enough with all the injuries that you had to maintain the number 1 seed. You got bumped out. It's not anything that the Eagles did. So, bring it. Let's see what y'all got today.
All right, one change they did make, and I was about to mention to you, Gunnar, about how well-coached football team this is. Obviously, Ben Johnson not there anymore. Now you have Dan Campbell taking over the play-calling responsibility for the Lions offense. You also look at last year, how well-coached they were, despite all the injuries, reminding me a lot, quite frankly, of the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles, who had a lot of guys on IR, but they found ways to win those games and dominate with Carson Wentz and then keep it going defensively especially, and then in the Super Bowl again, as we all know, with Nick Foles. How much do you think this dynamic changes, though, with Vic Fangio now taking on Dan Campbell as the offensive play caller?
I think it's the most intriguing aspect of tonight's matchup, the chess match between these two. Dan Campbell took over the play calling last week, and of course his offense went out there and put up 44 points in Washington. But that's Washington. Now he steps up a significant level in facing an Eagles defense that does not give up a lot of deep balls. This is the Detroit team, especially their passing game, that has 20 plays of 27 passing plays of 20 or more yards. They're a big, explosive type of offensive. And Vic Fangio's edict with his defense is don't let anything get behind you. So we're going to see who wins that battle tonight. That's why I just think it's such an intriguing matchup of two chess players moving their pieces around. Now, unfortunately, Sam Laporta is not playing tonight for Detroit. But Dan Campbell said he's utterly confident in the backup tight end who's playing. Well, what do you expect him to say?
Yeah, right.
That's a significant drop-off in talent. But so I think that is the most intriguing aspect of what's going to take place tonight, watching these two try to figure out how to get at each other.
So a couple of things. I think Dan Campbell takes over play calling because, if you go back and you look at the games where the Detroit Lions lost, they didn't run the ball particularly well. Against the Vikings, they had 20 runs for 65 passes. Jared Goff threw the ball 37 times. Against the Chiefs, they had 21 carries for 89 yards. Jared Goff threw it 29 times. Against the Packers, they ran the ball 20 times for 44 yards. Jared Goff threw the ball 39 times. So when you begin to look at the numbers and you understand, maybe Johnny Morton didn't put the emphasis on the running game the way he needed to, and Dan Campbell pretty much had enough of it last week and said, okay, I'm going to take it over because if you remember, Jahmyr Gibbs had 100 yards rushing last week, a big day, and David Montgomery was also pretty stout in the run game last week. They had well over 100 yards total rushing. I would venture to believe that I didn't look up the stat that if you look at that pass to run ratio with Dan Campbell calling the plays, it's probably pretty balanced. Now, to me, this game is going to come down to two factors, okay? On the defensive side of the ball, our ability to keep Aiden Hutchinson under control because he is a menace. He's a problem. The guy never stops, and we've had the tendency on the ends from time to time to block a guy, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and let him go, thinking that Jalen's already let the ball go, and that's the guy that goes and makes the sack. They got to fight him until the second whistle blows. Not the first one. I'm talking the second whistle. They've got to fight him. And if they need help, give whoever needs help, because this guy is a problem. The second thing, on the offensive side of the ball, okay, I get it. They're averaging 372 yards per game, total offense, okay? 6th in the National Football League. 31 points per game, 2nd in the National Football League. They got a lot of great stats that they're 68% in the red zone. They're rushing for 136 yards a game. That, to me, is the key, okay? Because this entire offense is predicated off of the success of the run game. When David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are just running roughshod, that allows Jared Goff to go play action pass. Now the timing, the rhythm, everything that you want in your offense is on point. Because as a defensive player, I know when that quarterback sticks that ball out, you got to honor it when they're gashing you for 4, 5, 6 yards every time that they run it. Now that allows Jared to be comfortable in the pocket. I'm not saying that they got to shut down this running attack, but they have to control it enough to get to a place and get maybe a little bit of a lead where you force Jared Goff to throw the ball 40, 45 times a game, and you begin to pressure and you begin to hit him because he is pressure adverse. I think the main reason that Sean McVay got rid of him is for that reason right there, that when they weren't running the ball well with the Rams when he was there, he wasn't the type of quarterback that could stand in the pocket and deliver. I'm telling you right now, if they shut down this run game, they shut down this offense, D-Gun.
Well, take into consideration also, as explosive as this Detroit offense is, Green Bay held them to 13 points. Kansas City held them to 17 points. Minnesota went into Detroit, held them to 24 points where they do most of their damage in their own backyard, and beat them on their own turf. So there are ways to diffuse this explosive offense. And that's not to underestimate what this Detroit offense is capable of doing. We talk about the wealth of talent this Eagles offense has. That Detroit offense has some serious talent as well. I would argue they have the best 1-2 combination running back in the National Football League. They have 3 wide receivers who are excellent route runners and have great straightaway speed. The one deficiency is Jared Goff is not a scrambler. If you put pressure on him, he'll go down before he looks for a way to get out of it. 9 times out of 10, he'll go down first, he'll tuck and duck before he looks to try to find a seam to get out of it.
That's why you have to put the onus on him because the key to this entire offense is the run game. Because once they get to their play action pass, it is so hard to stop them. Because most teams play their slot corners and their cornerbacks, they play them with outside technique. Well, he goes play action pass, and those guys are running those crossing routes, those slant routes. The defenders are chasing them. Like, I don't understand in the National Football League why you don't see more teams start off outside and then jump inside. Because really the only route that you're afraid of when you play outside technique is the corner route. You're afraid that guys are going to run away from you. That's the only route. Most of the time you're in single high safety, so I get it. That guy runs that corner route. It's awful hard when that quarterback looks off here and he's running the 7 route over here and he comes back and he throws it. That's a long way to go to be able to get there. You understand what I'm saying? But you can't play the entire game fearful of the 7 route and the slot fade. You just can't do it. Sometimes you got to get down, play inside technique, take away the inside release, force the outside release, okay, and force the quarterback to make perfect throws. But if you're just going to line up outside and give the guy, he's going to stab you outside and come down inside, and now you're 2 bodies away from him. That's like me and my grandson playing catch in the backyard. That's such an easy throw, and teams do it on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5. I'm like, do you realize what you're giving up? And I get it. Most of these defense coordinators today are bend but don't break. They have the bend but don't break mindset. And then when we get down to the red zone, we're going to be a little more aggressive. But think about all the real estate that you give up along the way. Why not take a chance somewhere along the way to set them behind the sticks so that now you don't give them an easy way down the field and now you're fighting like crazy in the red zone to keep them out of the end zone? It makes no sense to me.
I think one of the biggest factors could be the weather tonight for this game. With that wind swirling in that stadium, it could take away Detroit, at least for 2 quarters, take away Detroit's ability to take those deep shots they like to take, especially when they're going into the wind. That could alter their game plan, which would be to the benefit of the Eagles in this particular case.
Absolutely. Now, one of the guys that we're hoping can help contain the Detroit Lions offense is a guy that really burst out onto the Eagles scene on Monday night in his first game as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, not his first game under Vic Fangio, of course. That's Jalen Phillips. After going back, watching the film on him, how much of an impact do you think he had on this Eagles defense?
That was huge. It's huge because, I talked about it last week. He's a bigger type defensive end, so he's stout against the run, and he gives offensive tackles problems in the rush game as well. So you've got a stouter body, just setting the edge on one side, and he does a really good job of doing. He does everything well, and he's going to have to do a lot well tonight because these 2 tackles, Decker and Sewell, they're good tackles. I know they're a little beat up, but then again, this is one of those situations where the Eagles' run defense has got to step up early and often in this game because Dan Campbell taking over, I'm telling you right now, you're going to get a steady diet of the run game. Early in this game, they're going to want to establish the run so that opens up the pass game. But if they shut that part down and by some stretch of the imagination, we can get a little bit of a lead, 10, 14 points, now that begins to put the stress back on Dan Campbell. And that begins to put him in a situation where are you going to keep trying to run the ball when we stuffing you, or you going to come out and you're going to throw it on 3 downs because you're behind. That's why I'm saying that run game is the key to this football game.
Now, looking at this defense, you add Jalen Phillips. Nakobe Dean is also back. Jahad Campbell's trying to get used to a little bit more of the edge rusher position than anything. Zach Bond, obviously, a nice carryover from last year. It's hard to set a precedent like he set last year and just keep up with that same thing. And then not to mention already a guy like Moro Ojomo who's calling out plays of the opposing offense during games now, and Jalen Carter. How much better do you expect this defense to be, Seth, in the second half of the season?
The more comfortable that the young guys get and the new additions to the defense, the better they should get. And then at the other end of the spectrum, I believe that the Vic Fangio's playbook begins to expand. The more that he gives them, the more that they're able to digest and decipher, I think the more he'll begin to feed them. And then the defense begins to be so diverse that, it makes it tough to call plays because you can't predict. Listen, when you're calling plays, you're calling offensive plays and defensive plays, a lot of times it's just a prediction based upon the analytics of what you think that they're going to run, okay? You go nickel or dime based on personnel, based on field position, based on down and distance. You're doing that based upon the data that you've accumulated over a 4-game breakdown. It's no different on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. You're projecting what you think they may run, and now the components are built in for your quarterback and for your defensive players, your linebacker, your middle linebacker, and your free safety to make the necessary checks based upon what they see and what the adjustment is pre-snap. But they're just going to get better. It's impossible for them not to get better. The only thing I can see that would prevent them from getting better, D-Gun, is if you get a major injury at a major position. Like if Jalen Carter gets hurt and Nakobe Dean gets hurt again, or Quinyon Mitchell gets hurt for an extended period of time, that changes how Vic Fangio would now call his defense. But just as long as those key players stay healthy, I expect for them to continue to get better and better each and every week.
I like the team speed. With those players coming back now, I love this lateral speed. I love the straight ahead speed of this defense now, which forces quarterbacks to speed up the thought process in terms of what they want to do in delivering the football. And in a lot of ways, the way Fangio's playing his schemes forces quarterbacks to hesitate at the line of scrimmage in terms of what audibles they might want to call, because you don't know if you're looking at the real thing or a ghost. Now, a lot of good defensive coordinators do that to try to confuse quarterbacks, but I think Fangio does it as well as anybody in the National Football League right now.
Yeah, and I also want to make sure I mention, because I didn't mention his name earlier, Nolan Smith also coming back as well. Can't forget about him.
Yep.
When we come back, I know we just broke down a lot of what goes on behind enemy lines for this game. We're going to name a couple of names specifically when we come back that the Eagles need to target in this game. We'll talk about that when we return on the Verizon pregame show.
Mid-Penn Bank's Sports and Entertainment Division was created because we understand the unique financial situations of both athletes and entertainers. So whether you're trying to win a Grammy or an MVP, reach out to one of our professionals to help us navigate your financial journey.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Recovery Unplugged. Now it's time to go behind enemy lines as we focus on a couple members of the Detroit Lions that the Eagles are going to have extra focus on tonight. I'll kick this one off. Obviously, I think when you look at the defensive side of the football, Seth mentioned him a second ago, Aiden Hutchinson, a former Pro Bowler, obviously coming off injury from last year, but certainly a guy that could get after the quarterback, one of the best sacking teams in the NFL, best sacking defenses in the NFL, and he's got 7 of them, as well as 4 forced fumbles. I still believe that Jalen Hurts' biggest fear while playing is turning the football over. This is a guy that can make you do that. If he's not picking it off, if he's not scooping it up, he is forcing a possible turnover right there and a fumble. So you mentioned earlier, Seth, when you talk about guys on the ends there, your tackles, your offensive tackles, they got to be right there up for the challenge against Aiden Hutchinson today. That's who I look at. Gunnar, who are you looking at for this one?
Yeah, first of all, when I look at Aiden Hutchinson, he reminds me a lot of J.J. Watt. Just a nonstop motor coming off the edge, and you can't control. You know what they say? You can try to control him, but you can't. You can try to contain him, but you can't control him. You know. But the player I like the most, you guys always hear me talk about how if you're a fan of football, period, you like to see great players play. You know, get extensive look. And one of those players is this young kid, Amon-Ra St. Brown, for the Detroit Lions. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. Right now, he's 4th in the league in receiving receptions, 5th in the league in receiving yards, 2nd in touchdowns. He has 8 touchdowns. Before this season, he had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons and 3 consecutive seasons where he caught over 100 balls. Obviously, he's one of Jared Goff's, if not the Jared Goff go-to guy in big situations. You know, he's not the biggest guy out there. He's about 6 foot, about 210 pounds, but he is fearless, and he doesn't drop many balls. You know, he's a great route runner as well, and he can take it deep on you. You know, he has 7 catches of 20 or more yards. So he's that big play receiver. So look for Jared Goff to go to him early and often in this particular game. Now, obviously, I would not be surprised if Vic Fangio doesn't slide coverage over to St. Brown's side of the field to try to take him out of the game, as teams will try to take A.J. Brown out of the game as well. But I just love watching him play and love watching him run routes because he is one of the upper echelon receivers in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm. And Seth, I know there was some meat left on the bone with this one. You broke it down when it comes to the running game and also guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Do you want to say the nickname or should I say the nickname? I was a Sega kid growing up, so Sonic and Knuckles out of the backfield for the Detroit Lions. What are you looking at there, Seth? How do they stop that if they can?
All you got to do is look at their production. And you can see that's 13 rushing touchdowns between them. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has like 32 receptions, something crazy like that. So he's a problem coming out of the backfield. I think that these 2 guys are the key to this offense. When they're humming and when they're cooking, this offense is darn near unstoppable. I really feel like this is going to be the key to the game.
Fair enough, and I can see why, especially when we're also talking about Sam Laporta. Gunnar, I know you mentioned him. Those receptions, they got to go somewhere else. Someone else to spread the football to. Well, there's 3 names that these guys just mentioned that can certainly be hurting the Eagles' defense if they're not on top of their game tonight. Now, the Eagles need some sort of change offensively speaking. The Lions, as we highlighted, they changed play callers when it comes to Dan Campbell, and we've talked enough about A.J. Brown and what he would like to see from this Philadelphia Eagles offense going forward. But to crack the code and get a little bit more consistency from this offense, more along the lines of what we saw last year, you got to see that run game get going. We thought we had a little flash in the pan there, maybe a start of something great when it came to how they performed against the Giants. Well, it went right back away against the Packers, unfortunately. Now, if you look at A.J. Brown and you listen to him, obviously there's been struggles there. You're talking about a guy that's on pace right now for under 1,000 yards, well under 1,000 yards this year. 771 yards, to be exact, is what he's on pace for this year, which would only be, I believe, his 3rd season in the NFL where he did not get 1,000 yards. It would be his worst season since his rookie season in the NFL. He's had his struggles. But Saquon Barkley also, statistically this season, and when you also factor in the run blocking in front of him, he's had his struggles as well. But we don't hear a peep from him of negativity. What can the Eagles do to put the quarter in that Saquon Barkley machine and see this run game get going again?
Well, from what we've heard, the starting offensive line would be together for the first time in a long time tonight. I think it's about angles of the blocks. number one. And I think as patient as a runner as Saquon is, I think he's been a little anxious, especially when he doesn't break off those big runs early. I think he's been a little anxious and sometimes outruns his blocking and misses holes on the cut, especially on the cutback. I think basically, especially with the zone blocking concept, I just think the Eagles' offensive line has to do a better job of sustaining those blocks, and Saquon has to be a little bit more patient in terms of cutting off those blocks to get his yards.
I think what sped Saquon's clock up is the lack of, efficient blocking to begin with.
Exactly.
So when you're getting the ball and you're getting hit while you're getting the ball, that's going to speed your clock up because you're trying to hurry up and get to the line of scrimmage. It's no secret, my thoughts about, the run game. I believe that, straight ahead dives, slants here or there, those zone plays where, the second that the offensive line is engaging the defensive line, the running back's getting the ball. So it's a simultaneous thing, instead of, these long developing run plays where defenders have the chance to get off of blocks. I also believe that, they need to employ, especially against four-man fronts, they need to employ the dual blocks. Those are the doubles. Those tackles on the inside, they have to be doubled, and then you have to work up second level because, they're doing a lot of one-on-one blocking and let's hurry up and get up to the linebacker. And then what winds up happening, if one of those guards or centers gets beat by a defensive tackle, now all of a sudden either the field is cut in half as far as where Saquon can run it, or there's a disruption in the backfield, and now he's got to readjust where he's going. By the time you do that, here comes the safeties, here comes the corners. You got all of this going on. Quick hit and run plays, where you've got the defensive and the offensive linemen that are engaged, and while they're engaged, he's hitting the hole right now. I don't fault Saquon for any of the lack of production that I've seen from him. This, in my opinion, it all comes down to how you choose to block, whether you're going to double or whether you're going to single up, and the execution of that when you choose not to, which they have not been good at all year.
If the running game isn't there, I'm not opposed to having Saquon line up outside to get him in open space and get the ball in his hands. He's a good pass catcher. And obviously, I don't know many people that are going to bring him down one-on-one, especially with that patented spin move that he has and everything. Get him the ball in any way, shape, or form. If the lanes are clogged, hit screen pass, swing pass, anything. Just get him the ball. Get the ball in his hands. We talk about spreading the wealth of talent with this team. And, LaShawn McCoy was on WIP the other day, and they were talking about, why should A.J. get the ball more? And LaShawn said, yes, he should get the ball more. He said, think about this. Saquon will get like 22 touches a game. On average, a good NFL offense is running 60 plays a game. Saquon's going to get about 22 touches. Devontae's going to get about 12, 13 looks and touches a game. He said there's a lot of balls to go. Dallas Goedert's going to get his 10 or 12 looks. There's still a lot of balls to go around. So, yes, he should be featured more. So it's going to be interesting. If they do get to 60 plays, it's going to be interesting to see how those plays are distributed.
All right. You know what the problem is, though? I know you got to go, but yeah. I think the biggest problem with the Eagles and why there's not enough plays and not enough balls to go around, they rank 28th in third down efficiency.
I know.
Like, if I go back through my notes, it's like last week against the Packers. They fumbled, Hurts fumbled, then they went punt, and a half, okay? Go back to the Giants game. They scored a touchdown, they got a field goal, got a touchdown, punt. Obviously, that's the key breaker because, they scored quite a few points in that game. Go back to the Vikings game. Touchdown, punt, and a half. 3 and outs. 3 and outs. They have got to be better at converting on third down. That will give them the additional plays that's necessary to maybe get AJ some extra. And most of the time, those 3 and outs that I just, expressed to you right there, those were all in the first half, D-Gun. Those were all 3 of those were in the first half. So they've got to get better at converting on third downs. That, in my opinion, is one of the biggest faults that they have. In the red zone, they're number 1 in the NFL, okay? All the other statistics there are not overly impressive. 303 yards per game, 12th in the NFL. 24 points per game, 12th in the NFL. Red zone, like I said, first in the NFL. Rushing, they're 21st, and passing, they're 25th. But the thing that I think affects everything is their inability to convert on third downs and get themselves in third down conversion type situations, not getting pre-snap penalties where it's first and 15, second and 15, first and 20, stuff like that. You're not going to convert those. So they got to stop the mistakes, stop the penalties, and be efficient on first down so that now you can take a 5-yard, 4-yard completion on second down, knowing that you got 3rd and 1, and we know what's coming there. You're going to get the push 2 times in a row, no matter where you are on the field, because you know you're going to convert it. But that third down statistic of where they are, that is huge. Out of 32 teams, they rank 28th, and they're 7-2.
I thought they were number 1 in lack of third down situations. I thought I saw a stat that showed that they were number 1 in the league in not converting third down.
No, they're number 1 in 3 and outs.
I mean, I'm sorry, 3 and outs. You're right. 3 and outs. You're right.
Yeah.
How's that possible? How's it possible that you can be over 85% efficient in the red zone and be so inept in converting third? And you're 7-2.
It sounds hard to do.
And your offense, neither your offense or the defense is ranked in the top 15, and you're 7-2. And you're plus what, 5 or 6 in a differential ratio. I've never seen. I told you, in all the years I've covered football, I've never seen a team have this type of success with this kind of inconsistency in so many different stats. Yeah. It just blows me away.
You said something a while back about, Mark, you said it about Jalen, being risk adverse, that he's just not going. I feel like, and then D-Gun, you said something, in the first segment about it looking how, they want it to look. If you play the game in a passive and a scared manner, then I believe that this is what you get. Because Jalen Hurts has got 16 touchdown passes, 1 interception, and I believe 2 fumbles, okay? That's fantastic. But at some point in time, you have to take some risks, okay? You can't keep playing it close to the vest, because if the defense has a bad day, now all of a sudden you require that your quarterback now takes the helm, and he's got to figure out a way to get you across the finish line. You may have to come back. You may have to score more points than the 24 points that you're averaging per game in a situation where Jalen's going to have to throw the ball more. Why not set the table for that now? And you guys know that I'm a big proponent of being able to run the football. But if you're not running it, don't bang your head against the wall. Throw the ball. Loosen the defense up, get them conscious about how you stop the passing game, and then all of a sudden you start feeding Saquon, and Tank Bigsby again. So it's just, that's why I said early in the year that, we're looking for this identity for this football team, like Saquon in the run game was the identity last year. This year is different. And it may be different from week to week. One week they may have to come out and throw the ball. Another week they may have to come out and run the ball. One week they may have to come out and say, okay, we're going to throw it a couple of series here. We're going to, run it a couple of series here. We're just going to have to meld it and mesh it, But everybody thinks that you always have to have, this identity. Football doesn't work that way. Your identity is formed on that day based upon how the defense is playing.
All right, when we come back, our official predictions on this game and also our players to bank on when we return on the Verizon pregame show.
At MidPenn Bank, we believe in the power of community. We're not just another bank, we're your bank. We're also your neighbor. For over 150 years, we've been helping dreams come true, financing projects that make a difference locally. From small businesses to community centers, we're here to support what matters most to you, donating time and resources to strengthen the Philadelphia region. And when Philly's favorite superstars need a bank they can trust, they turn to MidPenn Bank just like you can. MidPenn Bank. Stronger communities, stronger futures. Let's build something great together.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
Hi, I got some work done with another surgeon. If I give you the bill, can you give me a better deal on a better face? Like this?
We're not doing that.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill, and they'll give you a better deal on the best 5G network. Read my lips. You're not as cool as Verizon.
Guess not.
Hey, my eyes are up here.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to Verizon for a better deal.
I miss turtlenecks.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Weber Display and Packaging. Before we give you our official predictions for Eagles, Lions, and Sunday Night Football action, we are still very much in the giving mood. Seth, we want to make sure that our audience gets some great things from the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel.
Boy, and we got a lot to give away. Let's see, what are we starting off with? I know that we've got So tune in next week. Next week we're going to give away 2 sets of 2 tickets for the November 28th Black Friday game at 3 p.m. at the Link. Who do they play next?
The Bears.
That's going to be a good game.
That Bears. So tune in next week for that. And we'll be giving away a Brian Dawkins jersey today in the post game. Make sure you guys tune in to see who wins that. And lastly, the Joyner Family Foundation, we are adopting 3 families. The raise is going pretty well. It's starting to look like we may be able to adopt a few more families. We're going to wrap our arms around and bless a minimum of 3 families during the holidays this year in partnership with Legacy Plastic Surgery. They're going to get hygiene things that they need, toys for the kids, Christmas, dinner. We're just going to roll out the red carpet for this family in need. And any blessings that you guys can help out with, we appreciate if you scan the QR code there and go and make a donation. No donation is too small or too big. And from mine and my wife's, from the bottom of our heart, we thank you for being a blessing to those that need a blessing during the holiday season.
How about that? Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, jumped ahead to our predictions now for the Eagles and Lions. I'm going to take this one. I think I have a little bit more high scoring than some people would predict. I think the Eagles win this football game 27-24. Bottom line for me, as much as the Lions might have this game circled on their calendar, they're looking across at the Philadelphia Eagles, who still very much at 7-2 have something to prove, offensively especially, only scoring 10 points after 2 weeks essentially of a layoff coming out of the bye week against the Packers. All the drama gets a lot quieter if you put up points in this game, especially against a stout Lions defense. But I think they could do that tonight. 27-24, Eagles win this game. Derek Gunn, what say you?
I said it earlier, I do think the weather is going to somehow play a factor in this game, especially if the winds are swirling. Detroit's nicked up at a number of key spots. Their all-pro safety is out for this game tonight. Their best tight end, Sam Laporta, is out for this game tonight. They are a rugged bunch. If you thought that Green Bay defense was rugged, this Detroit defense is just as rugged, if not more. They have the best 1-2 punch running back, I think, in the National Football League. But Jared Goff is a great regular season quarterback, but sometimes he's not the best big game quarterback. And I do think that because he's not mobile enough, that if Vic Fangio dials up the blitzes, they have Goff right where they want him. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game 24-20.
24-20.
I'm not going to pick against the Eagles until, somebody proves that they can beat them. And I get it. They've lost 2 games, but in actuality, I believe that they only really lost 1 game this year when you consider the Giants beat the hell out of them. The Broncos game, they gave that game away. So when I think about this game and what it means to the playoff race, it has huge implications. And I think that Detroit is going to come in here and treat this game like a playoff game. The Eagles have to match that intensity, and they've got to match that energy. Last week, Nick Sirianni's message was physicality against the Green Bay Packers. I don't think this week is any different because this is one of the more physical teams in the National Football League, how they play defense and how they try to run the football and impose their will upon you. The Eagles are going to have to match that. That being said, as I've watched this defense get better week after week with the addition of Jalen Phillips and some of the other pieces that we now have back out at our disposal, although I think it's going to be a close game, I see the Eagles walking away with the W, 21-17.
21-17. As far as a player to bank on, I'm going to go with Jalen Phillips again. I think Jalen Phillips actually gets a couple of them sexy numbers, not just quarterback hits, but actually gets the sacks today too. I'm going to go with 2 on Jared Goff. Also worth pointing out, they did not. The Washington Commanders did not get to Jared Goff once last week. Did not get to him once on Sunday. But in that game, in the 4 games leading up to that one, Jared Goff was sacked 14 times in 4 games. I think the Eagles get him back on that pace. Jalen Phillips leads the charge that way. He's my player to bank on. Gunnar, what do you got?
Oh, I'm going with A.J. Brown. I'm going to watch this one closely. I'm going to watch body language. If he's not figured into the action early and often. I'm going to watch, if the camera showed it up, maybe the sideline interaction between coach and players. So I'm going to keep a close eye on A.J. tonight because A.J. is still a topic, a much intriguing topic in the Philadelphia Eagles organization.
I can't wait to say, how great did A.J. play as opposed to, can you believe what he said? I really look forward to going back to talking about that. So, yeah, I'll definitely take that. Seth, what do you have?
I'm going in a completely different direction. There's no way that I could stand up on my pedestal and talk about the importance of being able to control the run game and then pick somebody over on the offensive side of the ball. This football team has been better against the run, right around 85, 87 yards per game, 75, 78 yards per game versus the run. And that in large part has been because of Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean has played an integral part in why this defense has played so much better against the run. Now, I've been watching him, and there are some plays where he gets a free run to the football, and he's overrun a couple of plays. He just needs to tighten up his scrape to get the blow-up hits. I think that this is going to be one of those games where he's going to play prominently because he's got to be the enforcer when it comes to being able to get the run under control. Obviously, the defensive line's got to do what they got to do. But I think if Nakobe Dean comes out of this game with less than 10 tackles, then they've had success running the football.
Fair enough. We appreciate you guys joining us here for the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel and the Verizon pregame show. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and also watch on the postgame show on this very channel as well as 6abc.com so you guys can get in on the giveaways as well. We'll catch you guys in post. We'll be back with you guys on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel and the Verizon postgame show.